We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
One small step. We've all heard the story of humanity's first steps on the moon. But what about our last steps?
This is Gene, and as I take man's last step from the surface for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow.
In December 1972, two astronauts climbed into a small metal capsule and prepared to return to Earth. The Apollo 17 crew included the first scientists to set foot on the moon, and the astronauts spent more than 3 days exploring. They conducted more experiments and examined more of the surface than any previous mission. This concluded the Apollo program. More than 10 years' work by 500,000 men and women. In a competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, known as the space race, humanity proved that we could walk on the moon. When the Apollo 17 astronauts blasted off, most people thought we would return soon. But we didn't. Apollo hardware sits abandoned on the lunar surface for more than 40 years now, relics of another time. For many of us, the space race seems like ancient history. Some people miss the glory days of Apollo's explorations. Others think the missions never even happened. Children who once played at being astronauts have grown up, had children and even grandchildren of their own. Now, the next generation of explorers will make the journey. But the moon lies far from Earth, and governments have spent tens of billions of dollars to travel there. Can we find a better, more economical way? What would motivate people to start a new space race? For centuries, people have created prizes to encourage exploration. In the 18th century, the British government offered a reward to improve navigation and to make ocean voyages safer. Nearly 100 years ago, New York hotel owner Raymond Ortigue offered a prize to the first person to fly across the Atlantic non-stop, a first step toward creating global commercial airlines. More recently, the Ansari X Prize helped to start a new industry that takes tourists up to the edge of space and back. Such prizes have successfully opened up frontiers of opportunity and changed civilization in unpredicted, innovative ways. So what prize could bring us together to go back to the moon? How can we harness the enthusiasm, resources, and know-how that exist all around the globe? For such a difficult project, you need a big prize and a big vision. The Google Lunar X Prize has inspired people from around the globe to join a new era of lunar exploration. This $30 million competition will stimulate a new generation of engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs to think about space as a place to do business, to innovate, and to change the world. So, what do you have to do to win the Google Lunar X Prize? The first challenge is to escape the Earth's gravity. The force that keeps us all grounded works against a spacecraft launch. You want to keep your spacecraft small and lightweight, so you spend as little energy as possible fighting Earth's gravity. Once you're off the ground, you need to cross the 400,000 kilometers to the moon. One small miscalculation, and your spacecraft could end up missing the moon entirely. On the way, you need to make course corrections to avoid smacking straight into the lunar surface. To get into lunar orbit or begin your descent to the moon's surface, you need to slow down. Slowing down requires firing engines at exactly the right moment for the right length of time, so you need precise calculations to end up in orbit. Then you need to find some place to land. You'll probably want to avoid rocky hills and craters and land someplace flat. After making it to the surface, your craft has to either take off again or release a rover or smaller hopper. Then, whether it flies, hops, rolls, or roves, your spacecraft has to travel a distance of 500 meters. To claim the Google Lunar X Prize, you must now initiate your mooncast, take video and pictures, and send them back to Earth so we can all share what your spacecraft can see. But there's one more catch. To win the prize, your team has to be at least 90% privately funded. No governments allowed. That means teams need to keep costs down. If future exploration costs less, we can do more of it. Before launch, these teams will have tested each and every component. Every gram must earn its place. They'll run each calculation over and over again. Each team knows they'll only get one chance, one shot at the moon.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. At 94%, normal throttle, most of the flight out is 4.
Who will make this daring attempt to win the prize? Which spacecraft will survive the 400,000-kilometer journey? Which team is going to land on the moon?
Connection to lander lost. We still have no status update.
Signal acquired. Confirmed.
We're down safe and on the moon. Well done, guys.
What message will the successful team send home? The first word sent from the lunar surface in more than 4 decades. But the race hasn't ended yet. The spacecraft must travel 500 meters and send back more video and images to win the X Prize. As the spacecraft prepares for the final part of the competition, where will you be? What will you be doing? Will you be cheering on your team? Will your team take the prize?
490 meters, 491, 492, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100!
The approval in the X Prize has been verified.
These tiny robotics spacecraft will lead the way, not just from Earth to the moon, but from the present to the future.
I can't believe how far we had to walk, but we found it.
And still in the same spot where it won the X Prize.
Huh, I thought it would be bigger.
Hey, it had some tough competition to win the prize. Sometimes smaller is better.
This is so cool. I love my room. Sarah will be so jealous when she finds out we've been here.
Our robots will lead the way, but they'll soon need humans to help explore our sister world. Future settlements will provide places to live and work, to gather resources that will enrich life on Earth or launch us towards farther destinations.
Okay, Team 3, do you need any assistance?
No, we're done here. Just a minor repair. We'll be done in 5.
Great, we'll check back with you.
Perhaps some of the problems we face here on Earth can find solutions out here, on the moon or elsewhere in space. We can look to the stars with hope and promise. The journey from the present to the future begins with a few short voyages, fueled by humanity's competitive spirit. These expeditions will take us back to the moon. For good.
Think of something that might be useful to other people and you can make it real and you can ask people what they think about it and you can get help and you can work with other people to make something really cool and unique.
Like that you can make. Also that you can make anything you want, and there's challenges, you're doing prizes, and that you get to create different things.
I like the fact that people can make whatever they want, it's their idea, and you have all kinds of cool stuff that you can make stuff with, and it lets you do it.
I like how we can make our own video games and how we can make our own things off of a 3D printer.
Any inventions that you might have, or something that maybe someone hasn't made before but you think would be a great idea to make. I like how you're able to be as creative as you want, and you get to, like, instead of following a set of directions, you can do your own idea.
So my name is Andrew Gooden. I'm the Makerspace Facilitator here at Grant Center Arts Academy, and I'm pretty sure that I have the best job in the world. I get to help students be creative with their own ideas. So the Makerspace is not a scheduled class, it's a drop-in, sort of a library model. Students can come in starting before school at 7 a.m. Many parents will say to me, 7 a.m., you expect my son or daughter to get up at 7 a.m.? Well, surprisingly, there are kids knocking on our door at 7 a.m. to come into the Makerspace. The Makerspace is a place for students to be creative with high-tech and low-tech tools. So we've got a class set of laptops, 10 iPads, a 3D printer, a bunch of high-tech stuff. But then we've also got a bunch of recycled materials, and students have been able to do some pretty incredible things with both. This year has been amazing. Last count, in the first 10 days of school, we saw 175 students who visited 555 times. So it has been incredibly popular. Just yesterday, Thursday, we had our busiest day ever with 80 students coming in one day. That's going from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And we're seeing some pretty incredible things. We're seeing 2 7th grade girls who have discovered most of simple circuits without any direct instruction from me. So they are building a cardboard robot, and they wanted this robot to have eyes that light up. And so they started with a battery and a light. And soon they realized, well, they want the light to be kind of farther away from the battery, so we're going to use some wire. And then they realized, well, the battery's going to run out unless we put a switch in. So I put a switch on their table, didn't tell them anything about it, and they integrated it into their circuit. They left one day saying, my gosh, that was the hardest thing we've done all year. So they're really pushing themselves to make these incredible things. The students are learning also that they have to be part of a community in order to be a successful maker. So they're showing each other their ideas, they're critiquing each other's ideas, and then iterating upon those ideas to make them better and better. The beauty about the Makerspace is that there's high-tech tinkering and low-tech tinkering. As a Makerspace teacher, I'm definitely more of a coach. So I am coaching students and pushing them to build the best that they can, to make and have a high level of creativity and show me their creativity with their products. It is sometimes like a feeding frenzy in here because there's a lot of things that students are tackling that they've never experienced before. Things like circuitry, 3D printing, even just the computer skills that they're having to utilize here in a makerspace that aren't necessarily utilized in a traditional classroom. And so we do have procedures. When students have a question, they ask their partner first, then they ask somebody who's a part of a different partnership, and then they ask me. But as you can see, sometimes that needs work. We're working on building that procedure into it. The saying of our makerspace is definitely got iterations, and it's a story that goes back to a kindergartner named Austin who needed to draw a butterfly, and this is a well-known story taught to many educators. So Austin needed to draw this butterfly, and his first version of this butterfly was definitely needed work. It was just a sketch and was kind of off-center, things like that. Well, he iterated this 5 times. Each time he brought it to his teacher said, nope, make it better, nope, make it better. And this was for a project that they were going to sell these for a fundraiser. And so by the last iteration, he finally had this amazing butterfly. And this is just a kindergartner. So what I learned from Austin's butterfly iteration story is really, if you push students, they will meet your expectations and even go far above what you expect from them. Our boxes here are modeled off of the Mythbusters warehouse. If you've ever seen the show Mythbusters, they have all these boxes, and there's sports balls and wires and electronics, and I thought that would be a good, just given the space we have here, I thought that would be a good arrangement for the space. It's very student friendly because the boxes are open so you can peek inside. A lot of times if students are struggling with an idea, I'll say, hey, can I hand you an item and then you make something that includes this item? As an example of that, I handed a student a toilet paper roll, cardboard toilet paper roll, and told her to make something that a kid could play with using this toilet paper roll. I figured she would maybe make something with a marble or use that as a ramp or a tunnel. She ended up making a firefly catcher, the most creative thing you could possibly think of to use a toilet paper roll for. And in her second iteration, she's attaching a light bulb to this toilet paper roll so that as you're in your backyard looking for fireflies, you can turn on the flashlight so you can make sure you don't trip over something. Pretty amazing stuff. I would love if students left the makerspace at the end of the year thinking about everything in their life from a design thinking perspective. That is approaching any obstacle, any challenge in life with this mindset of just making a minimally viable prototype and then iterating upon that prototype to make it better and better. You can do that for a resume. You can do that for applying to college. it's not just making and tinkering, but that mindset of design thinking. Is that because students are able to choose their own projects, whether these are long-term projects or projects for a day or a week, they're really putting their all into it because it's their choice. And so whereas in an English class where you have to get through a curriculum, here in the makerspace you can work as hard as you want on one project. A project might take you an entire semester or even a year. And so because of that, in the makerspace, it's not being smart that's rewarded, it is hard work. And so you'll see as I'm walking around, I'm really encouraging students to push themselves harder on making their designs better. We go through a ton of duct tape, hot glue, index cards. We just got a huge donation of construction paper today. That was awesome because we've been going through that. We've just recently got donated fabric, and especially our female students have been going crazy with that, building awesome things, tank tops, t-shirts, bows, clothing for the robot. So typical junk items, markers, USB mice,